We love being able to go to the different high school, colleges, middle schools to live broadcast sporting events around the area. Georgia Alabama Sports Live appreciates all the fan support, but without a presenting sponsor like Glenn Smith Chevrolet and GMC in Opelika, none of this would be possible. So we want to say thank you so much. Go to glennsmith.com. That is right, glennsmith.com. See all the inventory and see why people always say, you're ready to smile. Thanks, everyone, and thank you to Glenn Smith Chevrolet and GMC for being our presenting sponsor.
What is up? What is good? How are you, everyone? Thrift Barringer here and Richard Holdridge on Georgia, Alabama Sports Live. And we are excited. I don't know if you know this or not, Richard, but this week starts high school football. And we're going to have a triple header of all triple headers to get it started on our high school football showcase. But, Richard, I hope you had a great weekend. You have been busy. If you looked at anything Georgia Alabama Sports Live related, Richard, did the Calvary Coach Show, Glenwood Coach Show, and called the softball game between Northside and Noonan, two defending state champions. So busy, and then now you're on my show. I thought my Mondays were busy with Sports Visions and Let's Talk. I think you trumped me on that, Richard.
Oh, I appreciate it. I also had Jonathan Bam Rivers on the Sports Beat, and I also did the Sports Beat show at noon, just in anticipation for my debut on Georgia Alabama Sports Live's Facebook page tomorrow at noon.
Cannot wait for that. It is going to be an update show that talks about the previous night's games, what is coming up today, previewing some of the games, expectations. I mean, Richard's going to have it all every Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday at 12 o'clock right here on Georgia Alabama Sports Live. Richard's proud of that. It's been something in the making. I just didn't want to overwhelm Richard, but he still does the sports beat on top of everything else for Georgia Alabama Sports Live. I'm like, man, let's just make it a part of George GAS Live, and excited that you're going to be dropping that.
Also, Thrift, I also produced the debut of the Kutsu Sports Show with Rick
Yes,
Beach
you
Sunday
did
night.
last night, and it was really good. All things Harris County and some college football and Braves. Love Rick Beach, and that's going to be every Sunday night, 6 o'clock. And Chris was able to – I'm going to save this. Just know on Wednesday, the Muscogee County Coaches Show office hours, led by Kendall Mills, Anson Hunley, Danielle McCoy, and Joseph Kegler, with many other Muscogee County coaches and ADs. It is going to be an excellent show.
Excellent.
7 o'clock on Wednesday. I do want to start the show by saying, with a heavy heart, I was not able to do a lot of Georgia Alabama Sports Live stuff after the passing of my grandmother, who was a hero around this area, did so much. Nell Bush, who was an incredible grandmother that just instilled so much love in me. I was super close. I grew up being around my grandparents all the time, where every day it's either her or my granddad picking me up from school until I got old enough to drive. Being at every sporting event, award ceremony, it didn't matter. Constantly going over there to eat, to spend the night parties with all my cousins. I mean, I love my grandmother, and she will be dearly missed. And everything we do here on Georgia Alabama Sports Live, especially for me, will be dedicated to her. She was all about the kids, all about giving back, and I feel like that's what we do here, Richard. We're giving back. We're giving exposure.
Yes.
But I needed a team to step up for me. Wednesday, we had Glenwood Media Day, and literally when my grandmother passed away is when Media Day was about to happen, and Richard came up huge. Him and Toy Gar went and did a fabulous job with the volleyball cheerleading coaches, volleyball team, and then Coach Nelson in the football program. Sat with Coach Fanning. Richard, if you missed that Media Day, was last week. Go and check it out on our YouTube and Facebook page. Thank you so much for that, Richard. Thursday, and then also Wednesday night, you had Columbus High baseball game. Rick Beach and Brandon Swobel held that down. Then on Friday was Harris County Media Day. Great job by Rick Beach and Chris. Saturday, me and Toygar, I was able to do that with Calvary Media Day. And then Kudzu Sports on Sunday. I appreciate all my guys that were there for me during that time. I appreciate all the overwhelming responses after this tragic situation happened within our family. And I know my grandmother would love nothing more than me to keep doing what I'm doing. She was so proud of me and my biggest supporter. So I love you, Grandmama, and you will be missed. Richard, we have an incredible week coming up this week, but I got to talk about what we've done the past 2 weeks. Muskogee County Media Day, Brookstone Media Day, Glenwood Media Day, Harris County Media Day, and Calvary Media Day. 5 media days in a week's time. Literally last Friday, August the 2nd through Saturday, August the 10th. 8 days, 5 media days. Nobody does it like we do on Georgia Alabama Sports Live. And I am proud of what we were able to accomplish, Richard, and it set the tone for what it should be a fabulous football season.
Really did. It definitely set the tone, starting with the Muskogee County Media Day. And, we're just hitting the ground running. I mean, football season starts on Friday. We're already live streaming volleyball and softball, and we're just trying to get that content out there that you want to see. And it's just the beginning. And we got a great team. I was really touched by the picture you shared on social media with all 8 members of us, because we all supported each other. And we wanted to go out to the black and gold game at Harris County just to have some camaraderie and to build some cohesive relationships and also test our equipment. I think that was very important as well. And I'm excited about this high school football season. I know last year we got off the ground running and it was successful. But I've actually been going through the schedules, doing my research, just trying to figure out all these teams. We've got an incredible week 1. I mean, just talking about these matchups. And for the first time in Georgia Alabama Sports Live history, we're going to have a triple header.
Richard,
how awesome is that?
Unbelievable. I can't wait. And we'll save that for here in just a moment. We got a bunch of things we're going to hit on. We're going to talk some Olympics, obviously, and then hit on some high school sports coverage and what we're going to do this upcoming week. And I'm excited about it for sure. But before we talk about this week's schedule and before we get into all that, I did want to go into USA basketball. Thursday, I'm watching Abramovich, Mistic, Nikola Jokic, and Bogdanovic just literally shoot the lights out of the gym. They gave USA a whooping until that fourth quarter that I have not seen in quite some time. And I know Team USA did lose a game back in the 2021 Olympics in Tokyo. They did win the gold medal. That was their first loss since that 04 debacle in Greece. But they were just on another level. They were shooting over 50% from 3. And I just thought every time that USA would make a run and they get it within 8, they would come back with an and one from Jokic, a couple threes from Aronovich or Bogdanovic, Ibrahimovic. These guys just were left-handed assassins, just giving USA basketball the business. And I thought, if this goes down the way it did, Richard, this was going to be a legacy tarnishing moment for Steph, LeBron, and KD.
100% agree.
And LeBron put up a triple-double, and he had his moments, and obviously he was a catalyst in that comeback. But obviously that game was led by one person, Steph Curry. KD, in the moment where 91-89, we'll get to that in a moment. Let's go back to Steph. He had been playing terrible basketball, was 1 of 11 in a game, could not hit the broadside of a barn. But this is a message to all you young athletes out there where you don't allow stuff like that to affect. It's the next shot. I know I'm Steph Curry. I know it's going to eventually fall. This stuff doesn't last long. You don't let the pressure get to you. And what I saw in that Serbia game, keeping us in it, because it could have been, if it was not for him in that first half, Richard, USA may have been down 20, and it may have been such a insurmountable lead that I don't think they would have been able to make the comeback. Kept them in it in that first half, and then just was unbelievable. You knew that you don't keep the best shooter down, and I think, and we'll talk about the final in a minute, but I think from that game, that was the best game in the history of Steph Curry. And I'm even putting that over game 4 of that 2022 NBA Finals when they're down 2-1 to the Celtics. He puts up 43. I think, and yes, it is hard to win NBA Finals. I put this game above that one. I was so impressed with Steph. What an unbelievable comeback and rewriting the narrative, because even though France kept it close and it was entertaining, there was never a thought in my mind USA's losing this. Steph was hitting his shots, LeBron doing his thing, great defense. I never worried about France. But several guys had to make big-time plays, Richard. Steph Curry, Joel Embiid, who in the other 2 biggest games of his career, Game 7 against Toronto, Game 7 in 2019, and then Game 7 against Atlanta in 2021. Game 7 against the Celtics in 2023, he came up short and looked like poop. He scored 7 straight points, Richard, to get it within 2. LeBron tied it at 84. He had a couple of blocks. I've never seen Joel Embiid play with that type of passion and fury. And then when the moment was big and they needed someone to get them a shot, I call it the Kobe moment. It was Kevin Durant's number that was called. You needed all those guys, and they all needed it for their own legacy. And it's funny, every single person, Richard, had some type of moment within that game that helped decide it, and it also helped cement their legacy, especially LeBron, KD, and Steph. I thoroughly enjoyed it. It was an excellent game, and I was blown away by what Steph Curry was able to do, showing why he's the greatest point guard in the history of NBA basketball, in my opinion.
Thrift, I had to overanalyze this one because I thought down by 17, if they lose this game, what a huge disappointment in the history of Olympic basketball. But it got me thinking how much the international game has caught up to the American basketball players, because back in 1992, there was only 5 NBA players total, and 3 of them were on Croatia, and they beat Croatia by 33. They were beating teams by an average of 44 points. These games are a lot closer because you have more NBA players. Nikola Jokic is the best player in the NBA. He was the MVP. He's hard to stop. And when Bojan Bogdanovic is hot, he had 20 points. I'll be honest with you, Thrift, when I saw that they were down by 17, I thought it was over. I thought that, oh, here we go. We're going to hype up the 2028 Redeem Team Part 2, because I seriously thought that they were going to end up winning the bronze because they're losing to Serbia, but they outscored Serbia 32-15. Serbia shot 0 for 9 behind the arc. What does that tell you? That LeBron, Joel Embiid, KD, they're putting the clamps on the defense. Incredible defensive effort. It wasn't just the shooting by Steph Curry. Yeah, 36 points. He was great, but it was the defensive effort to make sure the United States comes back into this game and they get a huge clutch win. And I actually think that this was the most heroic Olympic basketball game in the history of Olympics. I mean, this was something that LeBron said, I'm going to put you guys on my back. We are not losing this. This is leadership from a guy who's almost 40. But yeah, you got 3 MVP caliber players that are the pinnacle of this league, and KD, LeBron, and Steph, that said, we're not losing this game.
And they didn't. And what I was impressed with, another guy too, 2 of them. Jokic showing the passion he did. I've never seen that come out of him. He was yelling and one. He was screaming, talking trash. I love that Serbia game. Bogdanovic going at Carmelo Anthony with the 3 threes to the head. I mean, that was excellent. But Victor Wembanyama shows that he is the future of the NBA and future of basketball.
Oh, no doubt.
24 points, block shots. I mean, that guy in 4 years, USA is going to have a problem with him for sure. And then you saw, I mean, 2 French guys just went in the first round this past year. I don't know if that means anything, but I would assume here in the next, and then last year, I would assume here in the next couple of years, France, they'll be competing for maybe a world championship. So USA young guys, they better step up because I think LeBron, Steph, they're probably all done now. So Anthony Edwards saying he's not playing anymore. So that means I don't know if Anthony Davis will play again in 4 more years. KD's probably done. So who's those guys that are going to step up? Is it going to be Tatum? Who's the next superstar? We'll see. But wow, what an Olympic run. And then the women's side, excellent game between France and them. Almost lost it. Asia Wilson had a double-double. Didn't have a great game. But USA, both men's and women's winning it. Was a good time. United. You would think united the country, but then I know there's some Nuggets fans that were deliberately cheering against. It seemed like there were more people cheering against Team USA than ever before within America, which is sad. And I don't understand it. And it makes me think that this is where we're at with our sports fandomship, Richard, is crap like this. That you can't even cheer for your own country because some type of animosity you have towards LeBron or KD or whatever it may be. It's like, are you serious right now? These guys at the pinnacle of their careers, at the pinnacle of basketball, you can't just enjoy it. It's sad. It really is. But I love the Olympics. I do have a hot take. I'm not the biggest fan of Noah Lyles. I don't agree with the world championship thing that he said. I do think it's harder winning an NBA finals than it is winning a Olympic medal. It is tough. And there are a lot of things that have to go right for both circumstances. But to say you're not a world champion because I guess you're not competing against other teams in the world. America's where basketball is formed. By the way, all the best players around the world that play for different countries, Jokic, Giannis, Embiid, Wembanyama, you know what league they play in, Richard? The NBA.
Yeah.
So, come on. Let's be better than that. There's something going on there. He obviously can't stand. He has something against basketball players growing up. Maybe they bullied him. I don't know. I can see that happening. Maybe they did bully him a little bit because if you didn't play basketball or football in most schools, you were considered a clown. They would consider you not the greatest athlete because most track athletes also played other sports like basketball, football, or baseball. When you're just track only, I'm wondering if basketball players made fun of them. I'm not saying I call track people and track players and runners clowns. I'm not saying that, but I can see back in the day kids being kids and making fun of him, and maybe he's just holding on to that. But I don't agree with what he had to say. And the Olympics in general, it's hard for me to trust any committee that has been just covered in scandals in their history, Richard. It takes away a lot of the luster that comes from the innocence and the competitive, pure nature of playing in the Olympics or competing in the Olympics. I hate that for them.
Yeah, the Olympics was a lot of fun. The United States, they won the most medals overall, 126, tied with China with 40 gold medals. I mean, we had our Olympic heroes like Simone Biles, who solidified herself as the greatest gymnast in Olympics history. Katie Ledecky, one of the greatest Olympic female swimmers. I mean, no one's going to top Michael Phelps. I mean, he had 24 medals. It was amazing. I thought it was great. The United States soccer team ended up getting gold, beating Brazil. Not a fan of breakdancing. I'm glad they're getting rid of it. But how about that?
I'm not either. I'm so glad they're getting rid of it. I'm glad you said that because, and from when I grew up, that type of dancing was called no rhythm. Like I could do some of that stuff. Like what was that? It didn't seem like the break dancing when we see from like with the movie with Channing Tatum. Can't think of the name of the movie. Step it up. There we go. Step up. That's not what I saw from this competition, Richard, but continue.
But my favorite Olympian wasn't even American. He was the OG of the Olympics. It was the Turkish shooter who didn't even need gear. He goes up there with a white T-shirt and he just shoots and gets the silver medal. Like Yusuf Durkic was his name.
Richard, because he reminds me of being you. Why did I feel like when I saw him, his awkwardness, him just being him, I was like, that's Richard, but really talented at something, obviously very skilled, maybe not the greatest socially. I just felt like that'd be someone Richard would be good friends with, was Yusuf from Turkey.
Yeah, incredible Olympics. And now on to LA as they had the closing ceremonies, and Snoop Dogg was part of the closing ceremonies, and that's fitting because, when you think of LA, you think of Snoop Dogg and Dr. Dre, and the Olympics are going to be in Los Angeles in 2028. First time in the United States since Atlanta in 1996, and I wasn't even living in Atlanta in the time, but I know how big the Olympics can be in our own country. And, LA is going to do it big. You got SoFi Stadium, you got the Crypto Arena. There's going to be so many events in and around the area. It's going to be huge, and I know that the United States is going to do well. My biggest concern about countries that host the Olympics, or cities that host the Olympics in these countries, is these Olympic venues are just left to rot. I mean, they Olympics have financially bankrupt cities. If you look at Montreal in 1976, Rio de Janeiro in 2016, completely bankrupt in cities. And hopefully, Paris is thriving. I mean, they'll be fine, but the Los Angeles in 4 years, they'll be ready.
Yeah, they will. And I'm with you on that. And then sometimes in these third world countries too, they use improper ways of making sure that they have these facilities, which is disgusting. And then they let it go to crap afterwards. They get in depth. It's sad. Remember Qatar? I mean, how bad that was. And again, that scandal of the Olympic Committee. But coming back to LA should be great in 2028. The Atlanta Braves. I talked to Tyler Redmond. He told me the Braves should be okay. They're not out of the wild card race, and there's somehow, some way they can get back all the players that are hurt. The ones that can come back this year, Albies and Harris, that he thinks the Braves will at least make the playoffs, and then who knows what could happen. But what I saw in that Colorado game was probably one of the worst games of the season, if not the worst. You're up 8-2 in the eighth inning, and you could not get out of that. You finally had hitting, and then your relief bullpen that was supposed to be a strength coming into this season, and led by Luke Jackson, just crapped the bed yesterday. You were beat 34-12 by Milwaukee in a 3-game series at home. Colorado, you finally win 2, then lose the next 2, especially that one yesterday, 9-8. I'm okay with it because what the Braves have accomplished, at least getting one World Series, making the playoffs, win over 100 games, they've been the best organization in baseball over the last 5 years, okay, between them and the Dodgers and the Astros. They've been one of the top 3, Richard, and Braves fans should be happy with that. This year has been the year from hell. Every team has this. It seems like in the NFL, there's going to be one time in your fandom that your team's going to have the year from hell, which every player gets injured, and that is what's happened with the Braves. But Braves fans are so unrealistic. Now they are calling for Snicker to get fired. You tell me another manager that would do good with this roster with all the injuries they have. Braves fans, which are majority Alabama and Georgia fans who can be unrealistic sometimes, and heck, even Auburn fans, we have a tough time accepting the fact that, hey, we just maybe not that great this year. There's no one to blame other than it's just freak accidents that happened. But I know that's not Braves fans. They think it's World Series or bust, and I don't see that happening this year. I try to calm people down, especially Braves fans that are in my life, because I do like the Braves, but Richard, they just can't accept this fact. Someone has to be blamed for it, and right now it's looking like it's going to be Snicker. I know Anthopoulos is better than that. He's not going to fire Brian. It's just the fan base needs to be better.
It's going to be tough for me, Thrift, because they are about to take on the San Francisco Giants for a 4-game series.
That's your team.
Yeah, they are. But the Giants are 1.5 back from the Braves, who actually are a half game above the Mets because the Mets lost 3 straight. So the Mets can't get out of their own way. If the season ended today, the Braves would be the number 6 seed. But that's not good enough for a team that has made the playoffs every year since 2018. But yes, they've had a ton of injuries. Hopefully Michael Harris II will come back. I believe in a couple of days. I know Tyler Redmond said on Sports Visions that he should be back in a couple of days. Ronaldo Lopez, the All-Star, should be back in the rotation. And I know that the manager, Brian Snicker, he's going to rely on his starting pitching with Chris Sale, a Cy Young candidate. He's got 13 wins this season. Max Fried, he came back from the injured list, and he's had some rough starts, but you know that he's going to figure it out. I think that the Braves just need to rely on their starting pitching to carry him through the finish line. No September collapse like 2011.
No.
Let's finish September strong. And if you're a casual Braves fan, I'm here. I'm calling you out. People that root for Georgia, Alabama, Auburn during college football season, you abandon the Braves. You need to get and support the Atlanta Braves in September. And you know who you are. If you casually root for the Braves because when college football season starts and you stop watching the Braves. I mean, we have got to support the Braves all the way until October because this team deserves it. They've been in the postseason every year since 2018. And anything can happen in the postseason if they can get in. So I think they will. But
getting in really, is half the battle, Richard. That's it.
Oh, yeah. And, hopefully, they do well against the Giants. If the Giants beat them, I'm happy my team won, but I'm also rooting for the Braves to do well. I mean, I'm thinking maybe they could split the series because, Oracle Park's a tough place to play.
Split? I want to smoke the Giants. I want them.
Yeah, you do because you're a Braves fan and I'm a Giants fan. But let me tell you, I got a story about my wife and I went to San Francisco in 2012, and they were playing the Braves. So we've been to Oracle Park as there's a lot of Braves fans. When I was a kid in 92, I went to Candlestick Park, saw the Braves. There were more Braves fans than Giants fans. But it's a little different when your team has won the first 3 World Series in the 2010s and the even years. But, yeah, the Giants haven't really been the Giants in 10 years.
And it doesn't help either that Arizona and San Diego have gotten hot as of recently. The Braves have gone to poop, and now they're 4 games above the Braves. Braves are half a game above the Mets, and then right behind them is St. Louis, Chicago, and San Francisco, all vying. By the way, the worst record in all of baseball is the Chicago White Sox. The second worst record, the Colorado Rockies.
Yeah,
what a trash.
Well, they fired their manager. The White Sox, who had 21 straight losses, pretty much the opposite of Moneyball. They did hire Grady Sizemore, which I liked him as a player when he played,
Cleveland,
for the Cleveland Indians. Yeah, in the 1990s. He was a good player. I think that I just don't know what happened with the Chicago White Sox. So they had Tony La Russa.
And they won 90 games like 2 years ago.
Yeah, Richard. 2 years ago. Bobby Abreu, Gordon Beckham.
The worst team in baseball. By the way, Jonathan Carastori is watching right now. We appreciate you, FCA, Absolutely. And everything they do around this area. Sydney Carastori, which we will be talking about in just a moment because I had put the schedule up. She got a huge win, her first home win as a head coach, and it was an obliteration against defending 6A champion in Noonan. We'll get to that here in just a moment. We're going to be, remember, covering all things volleyball, softball, flag football, wrestling, tennis, soccer, baseball, basketball, football. We're going to get it on Georgia, Alabama Sports Live. Richard, let's go ahead and throw up the graphic for the entire schedule this entire week, and then we will talk about football here in a little bit and what we're going to do this Friday. As coming up on the screen, you see it now. It is the GAS live schedule, and there is a lot on there. I know people are like, what in God's green earth is this? What is happening right now? Well, we decided to expand. We expected to not really expected. Let me rephrase that. We are excited to expand, and we are glad that all the schools are partnering with us in our vision to give more coverage to more sports that these athletes deserve. And we started doing softball last week. The first game was Harris County Columbus. The first volleyball game ever on Georgia Alabama Sports Live was actually the Campus Academy last year, Richard. I don't know if you remember that. I did that game.
I did. I remember that.
But I didn't do play-by-play. So the first game we had play-by-play was Shaw Pacelli last week. Well, look at it this week. We are going to be doing for all Muscogee County, Harris County, Brookstone, Pacelli, Calvary, Glenwood, Russell County, Smith Station, Central, 16 schools that we are covering. We are going to get all the sports that we can. And if you look at this schedule, we had the Calvary coaches show today. Richard had on the softball coach, Jeff Halstead, and his season starts this week. We're going to be getting another Northside game as they take on Calvary. Calvary, by the way, back-to-back state champions. How about Northside? Same thing. So two powerhouse programs going against each other. Can't wait for that. But we had on Jeff Halstead. Richard talked with him on the Calvary coaches show. The Glenwood coaches show had Coach Strength. Noah Shelton will be hosting that. But this week, Richard filled in the void as Kayla Strength, the volleyball coach, talked about her excitement for the Gators as the volleyball program made it deep last year in the playoffs, and they expect big things this year, return a lot of their players from last year. And then Richard did today, Noonan, as they took on Northside. Richard, I'll let you give a little bit of a recap on what was just an awesome performance from this Northside team, who is by far the best softball program in the state of Georgia. It doesn't matter classification. The second best one may be Harris County, so I'm looking forward to that battle coming up next week. But what an incredible performance against a 6A Noonan team that just won a state championship last year.
Yeah, and this is the second time they played Noonan. They beat them 12-3 up in Noonan. But the thing about this game, they won 15-0 in the 3-run rule. They didn't even have to play the bottom of the third inning. So all they did was play 2 innings. They batted around in that first inning. They put up 11 runs in the first inning. And what they did completely dominated Noonan. And the one thing that stood out, I even said this on the broadcast, I did not see Abby Lovell anywhere. She wasn't pitching. She wasn't hitting. She wasn't on the field. I think that's impressive that Northside is so loaded with talent that your best player is not on the field or not pitching, and you still won 15-0. Now, they're going to have their hands full on Thursday, and I hyped this game up against Harris County.
It's not next week. Sorry, it's this Thursday. We're getting 3 Northside softball games this week. But when you're the best program in this area, I mean, it's hard not to. We also are getting Calvary. We're getting Harris County, and we're going to get other softball programs, obviously, in September and throughout the year. So trust me, people, don't freak out if we haven't got to your school yet. We're going to get to it. Just give us time. But Richard, I know you were hyping it up. It is going to be a 1 versus 2 at Harris County. I'm thrilled beyond words. But Coach Kara's story, to take over a program, it's like taking over for a Nick Saban what Brandon Jenkins has done or Kirby Smart. And I think it's going to be a seamless transition. And I think she is a bright star in coaching. And what she has already with this team, she's the favorite. And there is no drop-off, no doubt about it.
There's no question about it, but she is also facing her former head coach. She was an assistant under Coach Brandon Jenkins, who let Northside in pretty good shape, back-to-back championships, and now he's up in Harris County. I'm really looking forward to that matchup. I mean, we've seen Harris County on Georgia Alabama Sports Live. They look fantastic as well. I mean, this is the rivalry of all rivalries in softball in Columbus. These two teams met in the Final Four of the state playoffs last season, and they battle it out in the regular season as well. And it's going to be up in a hostile environment, up in the county. I mean, they, like Rick Beach says, they do it big in the county. And I know that he was actually watching the game because he was preparing for the broadcast on Thursday. The game ended in an hour as, Northside, They got some great hitters. Most of their top players are back from last season, and it should be a fun game.
It should be an excellent game, and we can't wait for it. So let's continue on through the schedule. Tomorrow, we got volleyball. I will be there. It's the orange and white game at Glenwood, 6 p.m. Looking forward to being on the call there. Richard will be on the call for Pacelli at Columbus, which is at 5 p.m. Pacelli, we know how good their volleyball program is. Columbus is not too shabby itself, live from Columbus. And then we got the Harris County Coaches Show is Tommy Watson finally makes his debut on the Harris County Coach Show. Rick Beach talked with him, so can't wait for that to drop on Tuesday at 7 p.m. Wednesday, we got the Muskogee County Show, office hours. Kendall Mills, Danielle McCoy, Kendall Mills, AD and head basketball coach of Hardaway, Danielle McCoy, cross country and assistant athletic director at Columbus, Joseph Kegler, AD at Spencer and head football coach, and then Anson Hunley, assistant AD at Carver and head girls basketball coach, all hosts a show that we are making part of our Muskogee County Coaches Show. They're going to have their show 2 weeks out of the month, and me and Richard are going to do a Muskogee County Coach Show together 2 weeks out of the month. This week, we're dropping that at 7 o'clock. They got a bunch of great guests. They got some legendary Hall of Famers on it. You're going to want to tune in at 7. And then live at 7:30, Georgia Alabama Sports Live Show. It's a preview show. We're going to get the predictions of every team we're going to cover this year and how we think they're going to do, how far we think they're going to go in the playoffs. Me and Richard deep dive, as I promised, for high school football in our area. And then we're going to keep these graphics because we're going to look back at the end of the year and see who was right and who was wrong. So can't wait to drop that. And it's our first live in studio show, Richard. I know you're excited about it.
Very excited. I've already analyzed my predictions, just trying to go through the schedule. And when you're going through the schedule, you're looking at the ranks of these teams, the strength of all these teams. It's exciting. There's a lot of unknowns. I'll be honest with you. It is hard to pick a team like Glenwood that's going into the AHSAA, which I have no idea, like the talent level and how they're, and then same with Calvary going to the GIAA. But I'm excited. I can't wait. And hopefully our predictions are right where they want to be.
Exactly. I know you want to be right, but I know if your predictions not looking too shabby for that school, I know they're going to be like, I hope Richard's wrong for sure. Yeah. And then on Thursday, we got the game. Number 1 versus number 2. Northside Harris County region foes. One of multiple times they'll be facing off against each other at 5:30. Rick Beach will be on the call for that one. It is going to be a slugfest. Cannot wait. Harris County Northside this Thursday, 5:30. Richard, I'll be watching that game. Richard, you won't be able to. You'll have to watch the replay because LaGrange is taking on Calvary at 5 p.m. in volleyball. So Calvary making their volleyball debut this Thursday at 5 p.m. And then on there it says Harris County at Brookstone volleyball. We will not be able to make that one. That was actually supposed to be taken off the schedule. So we won't be able to be there for that one, unfortunately. But all is well. Then Friday, as you see on there, we're going to be at quite a few places. I'm going to say this, and then we'll talk the high school football here in a minute. Glenwood Gator Night, that's a big event they do leading up to the season. They're going to give rings to multiple state championship teams from last year, and it's starting at 7 o'clock. Noah Shelton will be the PA announcer and also be kind of the host for that. It will be streamed on Georgia Alabama Sports Live at 7 o'clock. On Saturday, we got Northside and Calvary in a tournament that's played here locally at 9 a.m. And then at 12 o'clock, it's the Georgia Alabama Sports Live Show. We're going to be recapping all the Friday night games, showing you highlights. We're going to be talking college football and giving some predictions for teams and what we think is going to happen. So tune in on Saturday. And then on Sunday, we do it all over again. Kudzu Sports Show and Georgia Alabama Sports Live Show at 7:30. Richard, take that off and let's throw up the triple header graphic. Last year, we were able to accomplish a lot. 150 games we did between basketball, one flag football game, a bunch of football games, all basketball, and then baseball. We did one softball game, one flag football. It was too hard to try to do too much in the first year. We were just trying to stick to what we knew, and obviously we a lot of momentum, a lot of people supporting us. And one of the things we accomplished last year was able to go live at 2 different locations. Well, we decided to take it up a notch. We're going to go live from 3 different locations, really 4 this Friday if you count Gator Night, but 3 football games that are. I'm so excited it's finally here. We got, I think, the showdown of all showdowns, which is Harris County at Manchester. It's the first time these 2 teams have faced off in 20 years. They did not like each other. They actually stopped playing each other because of the animosity the schools had against one another. Platten played since the early 2000s. Harris County, Manchester should be a great one. Rick Beach and Chris Gates will be there. Rick Beach will be on the call. Should be a lot of fun. That's at 7:30. That's pretty much our game of the week. Shaw Northside, though, is a game that you should not sleep on. I think Shaw is much better than last year after making the playoffs going 4-6. Johnny Gardner's really likes the development and the off season, and he thinks that his staff really has Shaw in a place where they feel like they can win 7, 6, 7, maybe 8 games this year and make a deep run in the 2A playoffs. And they take on their crosstown rival, who is a 4A school. And what I saw last week in that scrimmage game against Spencer, I'm telling you, I think Northside is going to be – they're going to be the team to beat this year around the area. I'm putting them up there with the Carvers and the Centrals. And by the way, they do play Carver, so can't wait to see that. Caden Clay is electric. Kingston Rivers, son of Jonathan Bam Rivers, is one of the best running backs around here. That game's going to be fantastic, and it set the tone for each one of them. I'll be on the call there with Brandon Schwabel. That is at Kinnett Stadium. And then Richard will be at Calvary, which is host to High School Game Day. Backed by popular demand, we're doing that at 5:30 live on the field. Students there, band there. We're going all out. We're setting the precedent. Every time we come, High School Game Day comes to your school, you better go all out for us. Terrell County, a HSA school. I think they're 1A, Richard, coming in. And I think this is the first time that Calvary's taken on a public school in Terrell County. Wow. That is going to be great. Emmanuel Brunson's team last year, just short of a state championship. I was there for media day. He thinks his offensive line is bigger and better than it's ever been. He thinks Nate Osborne has great connection with all the receivers. He likes his team a lot. He thinks this offseason workout program has them in a position where Calvary's going to surprise some people in the new league. Tougher competition, but he thinks he's ready for it. And they're going to start it off with Terrell County. So we can't wait to be there. Richard and Toygar will be there. And maybe a special guest, Justin Brown, who made his debut last year, Richard, with you. So maybe we may have him this year. But Richard will be on the call for that. Triple header Friday to start the high school football showcase on Georgia Alabama Sports Live, the only live stream that can go live from 3 different locations. We're excited about it, and it's going to be a lot of fun.
One thing about high school football, it really sets the tone for the school year, and I've been talking to a lot of people. They're excited about what we're doing, but it's just something that feels different about high school football. That Friday night lights, going to a Kinnett Stadium and seeing these rivalries, and going to a place like Manchester, who went to the state championship last year. They got one of the best defensive linemen in the entire country in Justice Terry.
And they also replaced their coach. Their coach,
DeMonte Prather is now the new coach. He was the assistant, as a Coach Holmes is now at Pike County. How about Calvary taking on Terrell County, making its GIAA debut, taking on a GHSA school? I'm excited what Coach Brunson is doing at Calvary. They got a brand new press box. I cannot wait to get in that press box. And a lot of big things happening everywhere around the Chattahoochee Valley. And Thrift, that I know we're covering our games, but there's a lot of other games around.
And throw it up there. So we can see that.
I figured,
The only place that we will not be live from, that is, I think, Pacelli It's also hosting Stratford. We won't be able to be there. We're going to try to be as many places we can, but we won't be able to be at Pacelli as they take on Stratford. Nor we won't be able to be at Whitewater at Carver. So both of those, we will not be able to be at those games, but we'll be keeping up and updating and give you score updates on whatever game that you watch. But look at this lineup, Richard. Stratford and St. Anne Pacelli, both those schools were great. And remember, these were the two teams that played in the state championship in basketball and football back in 2022, 2023. So these two schools don't like each other at all. Spencer going to Dooley County. Should be a lot of fun. Whitewater coming to Carver. Carver, I think, is one of the favorites in 2A to win it all this year. That's a pretty good schedule, Richard, and I'm glad we get 3 of those games.
Yeah, that Whitewater Carver game is very intriguing because Whitewater used to be in the same region, along with Stars Mill, LaGrange, Troup County. They're now in 3A. They are on the outskirts of the playoffs last year, but they've had some incredible competition up in Fayetteville. They get to go down to take on a Carver team, which, by the way, Matt Stewart from GPB Sports has Carver ranked number 1 in 2A public.
And by the way, we're dropping our predictions, but you know what else we're dropping off? Our first ratings poll.
Yeah,
I'm sorry, I couldn't get it out. Our first ratings poll, top 10. Can't wait for that to drop. Time to ruffle some feathers, Rich.
Yeah, let's go ruffle some feathers. And I know that the confusion is, well, why'd you have a GIAA team above a GHSA team? If they played each other, you know what would happen. But remember, it's a ratings. It's basically your path to the state championship. Who did you play? What does your schedule look like? What does your record look like? I mean, we include all of it.
Yep, and we can't wait for that to drop. Can't wait to have on multiple guests throughout this year, whether it be Jonathan Bam Rivers to talk college football and NFL.
By the way, great guest. I watched the show on Sports Visions. I mean, he was a busy guy today. He was on the Sports Beat and Sports Visions.
Yes,
yeah, amazing.
Most definitely. And it was a lot of fun to have him on. But we'll hopefully have on John Freeman Nelson too to talk high school football around here. Jack Patterson, Tyler Redmond, Tony Reese. I mean, we're gonna have all the people on here. But we are trying to turn Georgia Alabama Sports Live into the ESPN. We're going to have our own on Saturday, kind of like a Sports Center update show where we show highlights of the games that we did the night before, talk college football as it heads into the season. We are excited what we've been able to accomplish, but the future is even more bright. If you look at it, what we're planning to have on the schedule, it's unbelievable, really. Now you don't have to throw. You can throw those down there, Richard. But we did 150 games last year. If you add all the shows, it was close to 250. Between the shows, the games, and everything else, we may get 500 broadcasts this year. That's 50 a month. Sometimes I'm like, am I crazy for doing this? But the team that we have and the ability to put out as much content live, local, we want us to be the one-stop shop for all things live and local. Remember, we also do CBCC Sports. We partner with them. We're coverage of Columbus State University as well. And then the professional teams like the Lions, like the River Dragons. Lions, we're going to stream them. The River Dragons coverage, talking to my guy Tom Callahan and being a part of their coverage. And then, of course, the Columbus Braves. I mean, we're going to be live and local all the time. That's why you like and you subscribe to the podcast for sure. But you saw the schedule. This is just week 2 of August. So be ready. And if you follow us, it's going to be non-stop content all the time. So you're going to find your school somehow, some way with the schedule. You just check it out on Georgia Alabama Sports Live. I just posted it. It's also on the GAS Live broadcast page. Subscribe on YouTube. This Wednesday, prediction show and ratings poll. We're dropping it. We're going live in person in studio. And Friday, triple header, Northside Shaw, Harris County, Manchester, Calvary Terrell, and we're bringing back high school game day. We got volleyball and softball throughout the week, bunch of coaches shows, and of course the Georgia Alabama Sports Live show. We appreciate all the love and support. For more information about sponsoring or advertising with us, because we get a lot of eyeballs, because we put out a lot of content, because we do a lot of games, we do need your help, businesses. This is an opportunity to show why you support coverage for this in this area. So if you're looking for that, DM us, give me a call at 706-325-6040. Anything else, Richard, before we wrap it up? Because tomorrow we got Harris County Coaches Show. We got and 2 volleyball games.
Well, I just want to give a special shout out to Coach Purdue. When you talk about high school game day, he was one of our most, interesting and, enthusiastic guest pickers. He was umpiring the softball game today between Noonan and Northside. And so I just wanted to make sure to give him a shout out. And I also made sure I shouted him out on the broadcast.
Yep, no doubt about it. Well, from Richard Holdridge, I'm Thrift Barringer saying good night, everyone. We'll see you tomorrow here on Georgia Alabama Sports Live. Thank you. And Glenn Smith Chevrolet GMC, our presenting sponsor. None of this is possible without them.
Thank you for watching the Georgia Alabama Sports Live show presented by Glenn Smith Chevrolet and GMC. You're ready to smile.